Okay, so I've calmed down now. I'm not gonna go on this berating barrage of being super upset and stuff. And for those of you that missed it, I did a two-part video on why I'm leaving Cape Town and why it's frustrated me so much. And I shot them while I was in a very emotionally charged place, and I think that was wrong of me, and I regret doing it because I think it was childish and I think it was emotionally manipulative, and I didn't like how I felt afterwards. But I'll get to that in a bit later. But I want to kind of just like give some context how I'm feeling and why I was so angry and maybe put things into perspective. But the first thing I want to do is I want to apologize to a lot of people, especially people that have been around in my life for a long time. And I want to apologize particularly. I don't want to apologize to Cape Town for the things I said, because I feel like the things I said are just how I feel and how I felt in the city. But I want to apologize to people that support me and that love me, because I think there's been a reoccurring thing in my life where I let these feelings build up and build up, and then I have this emotional explosion, and I go to social media and I post these like explosive videos. And if you've known me for a long time, you know it's not new. And I came to the realization after this recent one on why I do it, because I wouldn't do it if it didn't bring me anything, right? And think what I realized is that, and I want to emphasize, this has been subconscious. It's not been a conscious thing that I've been doing. It's only become conscious to me now. But I realized that was a subconscious thing that was happening. That I was saying, every time I do this, I get empathy and compassion from the attention from people, and that feels good. And it's the thing that I'm craving the whole time. All these emotions are building, and then when I get it, I feel better. But that's not a healthy way of doing it, because one, it's emotionally manipulative. Second, it's the boy who cried wolf. At some point, you say, "Oh, look at me, I'm struggling so much," and people don't know when to believe it or not, because every time you get attention, it's, "Oh no, actually, I'm fine," blah blah. And then thirdly, I feel like it's really unfair to people that care about me to get these life updates from me over social media and not from me personally. And if that's you, I'm so sorry. I'm really so sorry. I don't think that's the correct way to handle this. I don't think that's a healthy way to handle it. And you deserve better than that. And I should be a better friend to you. So if that's you and these grandiose outbursts have hurt you in any way, not from the things I've said, but just the nature of me doing them, then I really want to apologize to that. And all I can really say is I'm sorry and I want to be better. And I think the only way to apologize is to have changed behavior. But the only way for you to see a changed behavior is to give me an opportunity and forgive me. And if you choose not to forgive me for whatever reason, that's fine and that's valid, and I respect you for that. But I want to try it and be better. And I want to address that a little bit because I want to try and change and be better. And I think I've said this a lot before in the past, and it might come off as a bit of crocodile tears of, he says he's trying to be better, but there's no signs of progress. And I think I've been working on myself for a really long time. I have been trying. And I've made a lot of strides in a lot of areas, and I haven't made a lot of strides in another section of areas. And I want to take a bit of a different approach this time, because I think I've recently come to an important conclusion that's going to help me develop more as a person. And that, I think a big problem is, for the longest time, I thought that the intellectual, analytical part of my brain is all there is to you. Like, you are your analytical mind, you are your conscious thoughts, and you are nothing else. Everything else is just the exterior around you. And I don't believe that anymore. And the problem with believing that is that you think you can solve all your problems just through rational reason and practical logic and just knowing more things. But I don't think that's true. If it was true, I would have solved these problems a long time ago. What I realized is that you are much more than just the logical side of your brain. You are a nervous system, an endocrine system, a subconscious, and heaven forbid I say this, but you are a soul at the end of the day, or you have a soul. All these things contribute to who you are, and all these things can contribute to your bad habits and bad tendencies. And I think I've worked a lot on addressing the intellectual things and the analytical things and how to reason about changing my behaviors. But if that was going to work, I would have done it by now. So I want to actually try and look into these other aspects of life that I think contribute to change as a person, habitual change. And I'm going to be looking towards that. And I think I have some ideas on things I want to try. And I'll maybe get into that if I have time at the end of this video. But I'm going to be trying to better myself to not have these emotional outbursts and not have this emotional build-up and not just stuff away everything downside. And maybe I can actually talk to the problems. I think the number one problem is that I do I suppress my emotions a lot and I bottle up my emotions a lot. And I think there's a couple of formative experiences that happened to me in my lifetime that have kind of led to this, and kind of ingrained it into my mind. I think someone mentioned that thought patterns get worn in a sense. Your brain takes the path of least resistance. So if one thought pattern leads to a satisfying conclusion and a finite solution, then your brain's much more likely to try it again. And when it tries it again, it gets more used to doing it, and then that just becomes this pathway that's worked in. And I think some ideas have been ingrained into my life, and I think there's a couple ones I can point to in my childhood, some with my parents, some family. I remember particularly one incident of a friend. Um, One of the toughest years of my life was when I was 12 years old. I know it sounds crazy, but that was the year my parents got divorced, my granddad died, my dog died. Things at school were never really great. Like I was bullied so much at school. And people said heinous things to me that still echo in my head to this day. I still see glimpses of the things people said to me now as an adult whenever similar scenarios play out. And I remember speaking to my one friend at the time when this was all happening. And I want to preface this with, she was 11 years old, I was 12 years old. We were just kids. I don't I don't expect her to have had a different answer to what I said, but it doesn't change that what she said affects me to this day. And I I was telling her about all my problems, and she kind of just like snapped at me and she said, "Listen, I'm your friend, not your therapist. Take this to someone else." And that was really tough to hear at that time. And I can remember a lot of cases like that where I would open up my problems and they would go super poorly. I think some of it went super poorly just because people aren't very good at helping other people with their problems. I think some of it went super poorly because of surrounding circumstances. But I think my subconscious mind and my internal who I am, I guess, has just kind of interpreted that as you can't talk about your problems. You are not allowed to talk about your problems. Other people benefit when you suppress your emotions, and you benefit when you suppress your emotions. And that was really good for when I was young, and I needed that when I was young because it prevented me from heartache and rejection and similar feelings of distress. But I'm not that kid anymore, and I can't keep doing this, and I have to find healthy ways of outgrowing it and actually communicating my problems and actually opening up to people on a personal way so I can be seen and be heard. Um, I think the second thing, and this is maybe a little bit more, I guess, hectic, but I've talked about my father a few times on this channel, and I think it's no secret that my father did a lot of damage in my life, and not just my life of a lot of people around him. But the one thing that just rings so true to me is my father was extremely emotionally manipulative, and he would cry a lot whenever he wanted to get what he wanted, or whenever he wanted sympathy to try and manipulate people into doing what he wanted. And I took note of that as a very young age. And now, whenever I feel like I'm sad or I'm crying or whatever, I just feel like I'm manipulating people. Even when I'm by myself and I'm crying, I feel like I'm manipulating myself, which doesn't make sense, but it's just how I feel. And it's kind of led to this effect where I don't talk about my problems because I feel like I'm emotionally manipulating people. And I felt it so heavily with these last two videos because I felt like these were emotionally manipulative. In reality, maybe I'm just being myself, I'm being honest, I'm being hurt, but I just felt so bad and it weighs on me so hard to talk about my problems because of that. And I think those two things kind of contribute to me just bottling up all my emotions, never speaking about it, and never speaking to myself about it. And that's something I have to work on going forward, is drawing healthy boundaries for discussing my problems. And the second thing I need to do is my problem of isolation, feeling alone. And yeah, I want to emphasize that it's true. Cape Town is a very tough place to make friends, and it's a very tough place to to make a community and to feel wanted. But I don't think that it's an isolation. I think that the fact that I struggle to make friends and I struggle to bond with people is also a problem. And, it's not surprising that I had these problems. Like, I bullied a lot when I was growing up. I grew up with immigrant parents. I was outcasted. And then when I went to university, I finally felt some sense of belonging. And then COVID hit immediately and took that away. So I've never really felt wanted or belonging or ingrained into anything. And I think it's just become such a foreign concept to me that actually making the effort to have community and to want and to allow myself to be wanted and allow myself to be belonging, it's tough. And I think another thing is like I was maliciously excluded from things growing up. I had people that made it explicit that I was not wanted and I was not welcome and I was not invited to things, and I was explicitly and implicitly excluded from things, and there was malice behind it. And now when I'm excluded from things now, I still think it's malice, even though I can recognize that there's many reasons to not be excluded. It's they they didn't think of inviting you, or someone thought you were already invited, or like they don't even. Probably the biggest ones, they probably don't even know that you want to be included. But every single time I'm not including something, I take it as these people hate me, and they're not including me because they don't want me there. And not that they don't want me there, but they want me to not be there. And that's a terrible, terrible way to go about life. And that makes it extremely difficult to actually ingrain myself, because most of the time you have to communicate to people that I want to be included. And if you don't, they're never going to do it. And I'm preventing myself from doing that because I think the silent underlying message is that they don't want me there. And I'll be honest, I don't know how to fix this problem of self-isolating and not allowing myself to feel welcome in places and not allowing myself to feel part of a community. I don't know how to do it. I honestly, in my head, it feels like this is going to sound harsh, but there's a scene from BoJack Horseman, and I know, stay with me, where this one girl says something along the lines of, I just have this voice in my head that says, everybody hates me, and they're not wrong for feeling that way. And I think that that feels true to me. I feel that way often. And it comes from a low self-image, and it comes from a lot of bad experiences growing up. And then I came to Cape Town, and those things kind of compounded on top of each other with the fact that Cape Town is just a really difficult place to stay. And like I say, I have this very negative self-image. Like image is a very big thing in Cape Town. So all the things that I really struggle with were just compounded greater by Cape Town. And that doesn't give Cape Town the pass. I mean, it's an incredible place. I mean, that I don't feel that way about the same way about it now that I did in past two videos. It just kind of explains why I felt so much worse. And I'm such an extroverted, community-based person, and I want to be with people, and I want to talk to people, I want to see everyone. And when I'm not spending time with people, I feel really depressed. I feel very lonely. And I can't get away from that until I fix other things in my life. Maybe I can. Maybe I can lock myself into a situation where it just works out. But if I want to guarantee more success in this area of my life that's so important to me, I have to take steps to fix myself. And that's what I'm going to do. So what's next for me? I'm going home to Polokwane at the end of next month, at the end of April. And I'm going to be there for a few months. And I'm going to work on some internal things. I really want to have a much stronger internal system in my head that's not so affected by external things. I want to have strong mental fortitude. So no matter what happens externally, I feel okay. And that's what I'm going to work on while I'm there and while I figure out what I want to do. I managed to get permission from my boss to work from home for those months. So I will just be there working and working on work and working on myself. And after I've done that internal work and I've kind of really feel better about things and feel more stable, and also have less external influences, because right now I have people saying to me, stay in Cape Town, like it's not that bad, we can make it work. And I have people saying to me, come back to Joburg and come do this and that and it'll work out. And then I have a bunch of other external things uh, uh, advising me on doing different things. And I want to kind of detach myself from that for a little bit and let myself decide from internally what do I want to do and what I want to go about, how I want to go about living my life. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on. So I will be leaving Cape Town. I don't think I'll be coming back. I don't think I'll magically get over all the things that have bothered me up until now, but who knows how I feel a few months from now. Life. I never imagined myself living here in the first place, so I'm not going to say I can't imagine myself coming back because what I can and can't imagine is fucking limited. I'm a human being. Um, but I don't see myself coming back. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I need change. And I need internal change and external change. It's both. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on. So I want to apologize again for the way I acted and being a bit harsh and making a lot of people worry. But the summary is I'm good. I'm doing better. And I think I'm going to do a lot better these next few months. And I felt really good after getting everything off my chest. So maybe that's a sign that I should talk about my problems more often. Um, but I'm going to work on a lot of things, and I'm gonna keep you guys updated. If you want to keep up with my development, you can keep up with this channel. I'll be using it as like my public diary. So if you're down for that, stay tuned for more. And until next time, cheers.